Why does every recipe I try need 18 ingredients, including a jar of something paste I'll never use again, but will sit in my fridge for 9 months? I just want dinner in the oven, fast. That's why I love Blue Apron's new one-pan assemble and bake meals. They send you fresh ingredients that are already chopped. All you do is put it all together and bake. That's it. No chopping, no weird leftovers, just delicious, easy-to-make meals. Get 20% off your first 2 orders with code APRON20. Terms and conditions apply. Visit blueapron.com/terms for more.
This episode is brought to you by Paranormal Playback, a new podcast where hosts Shar, Mel and Laura recap the spooky and entertaining world of paranormal reality TV. Each week they take a fresh look at popular shows like Ghost Adventures and Kindred Spirits, blending humour with insight as they pull apart what's happening on screen. The 3 of them are a mix of believers and skeptics, which makes for really fun conversations, sometimes leaning into mystery, other times asking the questions viewers might be thinking themselves. With their background in creative production, they know how these shows are put together, so they're great at pointing out the moments that feel real versus the ones that might be more for the cameras. And their segment, This Old Haunt, digs into the true crime side of paranormal investigations, separating fact from fiction. With Halloween coming up, it's the perfect time to add something spooky, funny and a little addictive to your playlist. For even more spooky, ghostly, paranormal content with a humorous spin, go check out Paranormal Playback. Episode of Scary. I'm your host Will, and each week I narrate your real paranormal encounters. And if you have one that you would like me to narrate on the show, you can send it to scaryaparanormalpodcast@gmail.com. As always, before we get into this week's episode, I want to give a special shout out to our new Patreon subscribers, who are Joe Portlock, Tegan, Katie Hooper, Hayley Perkins and Gemma H. Lowe. Thank you so much for signing up to the Patreon. If this is something you're interested in, you can find the link in this episode's show notes or go to patreon.com/scaryaparanormalpodcast, where you gain access to exclusive Patreon only scary episodes as well as some bonus content. But now, let's get into this week's encounter. Just before the pandemic, my family and I experienced some crazy things in a place that we rented. Before we moved into this place, we were renting a small house from my uncle, who I no longer speak to. There was a few major problems with the house, and when we discovered that the place was covered in black mold, we knew that it wasn't a safe environment for ourselves or our daughter. And my uncle was completely unwilling to get it looked into or cough up any money to try and remedy this situation. But of course he would still take the rent every month. How you would treat your family like that, I don't know, but everybody's different, I guess. It definitely caused some tension in my family, and we were refusing to put any of our own money into this. We'd just find somewhere else to live. Within 2 months we were gone, and on October 6th we moved into our new place. I was super paranoid that this new place might have black mold too, but luckily the place was totally fine. Also, the landlady was a really sweet, kind lady. She was really helpful, and on the first day of us moving in, she even gave our daughter Kaylee a little teddy bear. From the first night in our new home, it became crystal clear that something was off. Deeply off. You know how they say that some kids and animals can sense things that we can't? Well, our 1-year-old daughter turned into a perfect example of that. She had always been such a good sleeper right through the night without a peep. We were blessed, but But suddenly she was up screaming like she had seen a nightmare unfold with open eyes. I mean, we thought it was just a new environment at first. Maybe the stress of moving had upset her, but as time went on, we knew that this was different. It was as if she could see or feel something that we couldn't. Night after night, it was the same story. Her cries just piercing through the house, breaking silence and breaking my heart. And then there were some moments where she would just laugh out of nowhere, looking at something or someone invisible in the room. Those moments really freaked me out, to be honest. I think this was because even if you stood in front of her, she would try look around you to see the thing that was making her laugh that we could not see. It was as if she was really seeing something physical. And after a while I got worried that maybe there was something medically wrong with her. Maybe she was hallucinating, or there was something going on that needed to be looked at. So we eventually ended up going to the doctor, who checked her over. We explained the whole situation, and she pretty much just said that this was due to a new environment and that she was getting used to new surroundings and we shouldn't panic. This was normal behaviour for some kids. And that put me at ease, to be honest with you. I didn't want to find out anything horrible that could be wrong with my daughter. And these things didn't happen all the time. They just happen every now and then. Her laughing or talking to an area of the room that had nothing in it. And I kind of got used to it. I was the one that spent most of the time with her. And I'd continue doing chores around the house and keep an eye on her. It was a pretty open plan, so it was ideal. She'd have these conversations with herself, and she was barely talking at that stage, just the odd word here and there. I mentioned these conversations because they were the one thing, even after having our conversation with the doctor, that still freaked me out. She was making those noises that kids make, entertaining themselves and they're playing and stuff. But what freaked me out was these bursts of laughter that were laughter that happens when you're playing with a kid, or a kid is watching something funny on TV, or those kind of moments that would happen when nothing would be in the room or the TV wouldn't be on. There was nothing to laugh at, nothing was. And when those moments would happen, I'd always just double take and have a look and see what you're laughing at. And there would be nobody there, or nothing really weird. I'd tell my partner that this was still going on. They were in work and weren't witnessing all these weird events, but we still had those nighttime screams that made everybody wake up. And then the pointing started. We'd be in the living room, her playing with her toys, and suddenly she'd stop, look up and point to the corner of the room. Every single time my heart would just stop, because you'd look over half expecting to see something there, but there was nothing, just a cold, empty corner. But her little face was so convinced, absolutely sure that there was something or someone there. I was making plans to bring her to another doctor for a second opinion. My partner thought I was overreacting, but I just felt that something wasn't quite right. About a week after this whole pointing thing started was when things got really heavy. One night Kaylee woke up screaming, and I went into her room. We always left her bedroom door open. As I got closer to her room, I could see that she was standing up in her crib, looking out at me. And just as I went to walk inside the room, I saw the shadow of somebody or something standing at the bottom of the crib. But the time I blinked, it was gone. but I knew something weird was after happening because the air in that room was different and the temperature was way colder than what it should have been. I told my partner, I think I saw something weird in that room, something weird is happening. And I just pushed for Kaylee to be brought into our bedroom for a while. So we moved the crib and she slept in there, and she was sleeping a lot better. Even though she was now in the room with us, we were getting solid night's sleep. I think after that night I began to feel a bit creeped out in the house. One day my sister, who is a godsend, took Kaylee for the day to give me a bit of a rest. I had sat down and watched some TV and must have nodded off for a few moments. When I came around, I could hear voices, like someone was arguing with another person, and it sounded like it was coming from inside the house but was distant. I think initially I thought maybe it was the TV, and when I switched that off, I thought maybe I had left something on my phone that was continuously playing and I didn't realise I turned it off. I checked my phone. No, there was no noise coming out of it. And then I realised that these noises seemed to be coming from down the hallway. And after walking down the hallway, it was clear that they were coming from Kaylee's old bedroom. These voices sounded like somebody had left maybe a television on at low volume inside a room, but I knew there was no TV in there was no radio, there was not even a speaker. That room pretty much just had her clothes and a few toys. I had been keeping that bedroom door closed all the time because, to be honest with you, I just didn't really like that room after I thought I saw somebody in there. I listened at the door. You couldn't make out words, but you could hear parts of this argument of what it sounded like. And then it struck me maybe the window in the bedroom was left open a little bit or something. And that realization kind of washed through me, and I just opened the door instinctively, thinking, oh, the window's open. And when I opened the door, these voices completely stopped, and inside the bedroom was complete silence. At this point, I was convinced that this place was haunted. My partner, they weren't quite there yet. But then they weren't in the house as much as I was. All these weird things that were happening in the house were pointing towards that, in my mind. Another weird occurrence happened whenever I was trying to get Kaylee to fall asleep, and my sister had texted to say that she was going to call over. I'd said to her to leave it for an hour or so, just wait until Kaylee was completely asleep. So she said no problem. About an hour passed and Kaylee had finally fallen asleep. I heard her car pull up in our driveway, and I went to her front door to open it, to let her in. Immediately she's making this weird face and comes up close to me and whispers, "Who's here?" I'm like, "Nobody's here, it's just me and Kaylee's asleep." And she's like, "No, the guy, he's working on the house or something." It turns out that she said that whenever she was driving up to the house that she saw a guy in the window looking out, who she didn't recognise as being one of her friends or a family member. So she assumed that it must be some guy over to fix something wrong with the house. There was nobody in the house. She was so adamant that she had saw somebody in the window that she made me look all around the house with her to see, because she was convinced that there was somebody in the house hiding, or that somebody had gotten in that I wasn't aware of. So we looked all throughout the house. I had a habit of making sure that the back door was locked whenever I bring Kaylee for a nap, just because of that reason, that you didn't want somebody coming into the house anyway. The door was locked. There was nobody in the house. We looked everywhere. She was so freaked out about this that she ended up staying until my partner got home, and then she went, because she didn't want to leave me and Kaylee there on our own. I had told my sister about the weird things that were happening in the house, so when my partner got home and he heard this whole story, he didn't believe that any of this happened. He just thought that she was pulling my leg, that this was her way of pulling a prank on me. That evening we all go to bed. I wake up at around 2 a.m. to him at our bedroom door, wide-eyed, on the phone to the cops. And as I'm coming to, I can hear him saying, there's somebody in our house, they've got a gun, we've got a kid here, like, please hurry. And I'm telling them to be quiet because Kaylee's in her room and she's still asleep. He says that he wakes up and hears voices in the house, and then he heard a gun fire. But I'm thinking, I didn't hear a gunfire. I would have woke up. If I heard a gunfire, Kaylee would have woke up. The cops come and they're annoyed. Of course, there was nobody in the house. And I'm annoyed at this point because half our neighbourhood is awake. I can see the lights on in their house. We hadn't really interacted with our neighbours at this stage. We had only been living there a short while. And now I'm thinking there's this really bad impression that we're putting upon our neighbours. The next day, the landlady calls. She's after hearing about this. Some of the neighbours have called her and to tell her what happened. And she's wondering what has happened last night, you know. So I tell her, I don't know, I think my partner had a bad dream and he must have thought that there was somebody in the house. And she's a little bit quiet on the phone, but then said that she's going to drop by later on. I suppose she just wants to check out and see that everything's okay, so I didn't tell her not to. She comes over and has a good look around, and she sees that everything's fine. I make her a cup of coffee and we get talking about the house, and I told her, you know, there's been some weird things happening here. And I told her all the strange things that had happened, and you know, has you ever had this before in the past with other previous tenants, or? And she's like, no. She's telling me, you know, maybe things were a bit stressful in your past house, so you were telling me, and you know, it's a big move and you've got a kid, and she's trying to pass all this off, and in my head I'm thinking, no, there's something weird going on here. Then something told me to shut up because she's already over here because the cops were here last night, and now she'll think that her tenant is some crazy lady who thinks the house is haunted. I end up apologising to her for having to come out here to see if everything's okay, and reassured her that, you know, nothing like this will happen again. And so she went off. I really didn't want to move house again. After she left, I called my partner and tell him that she was over here, and he still 100% believes that he heard the sound of a gun firing and people talking in the house. He's like, I wasn't dreaming, I was awake, I couldn't sleep, I was lying there awake for ages, and then I heard all this noise. He was like, I wasn't dreaming. I wasn't glad that this had happened to him, but part of me felt like I wasn't the one that was going insane, and that now he had experienced something as well. By now it kind of felt like there was a shift in whatever was happening. Even though Kaylee had been more settled in our bedroom at night, she was now becoming more unsettled. One night Kaylee woke up screaming and I couldn't get her to fall back asleep. So I picked her up and decided to bring her down to the living room for a little bit. I was carrying her in my arms, and when I was walking past her old bedroom, just as I passed the door, it started to shake like as if somebody was holding the door handle and pushing and pulling it. The whole door was vibrating. That really frightened me, so I ran back to the bedroom and I woke up my partner, telling him that there's somebody in the room, somebody's in the house. So he gets up and we go down to that bedroom door. He opens the door, nobody's inside, it's completely empty. And it wasn't wind that night, was really still, couldn't have been a draft. It was like somebody was trying to get out of that room, but the door was locked, if that makes sense. By now, we were all freaked out. My sister was updated on what was happening. My partner was really freaked. He's like, this place is definitely haunted, it's weird, we need to get some holy water in here. The next day, it's a Saturday morning, I went out to get something out of the car, and our next door neighbour, who I'd never met before, comes out and she says, hey, how are you getting on in your house? Are you guys all settled yet? And I kind of slipped for a moment and I said, I don't know if we'll be here for much longer. And she's like, oh, why? And I ended up telling her that there's some weird things in the house. She's a really nice, friendly lady. So I'm telling her everything. and she's just nodding her head back at me. And by the time the last sentence has come out of my mouth, I have this moment where I realise that I don't really know this woman, and she's going to think I'm an absolute nut job. And her response to me was, well, I'm not surprised with what happened in that house. And continues to say, and the last couple that lived there, they didn't have a good time there either. Turns out that there was a couple that lived there originally, and the husband came home one day and found his wife cheating. They had a massive argument, and this guy pulled out a gun on the other guy and shot him and killed him. I couldn't believe it. We had no idea that somebody had been murdered in our house. So I ended up telling this neighbour to come in, tell my partner everything that she had told me. And I ended up ringing the landlady and confronting her to say, you never told us that somebody had been murdered in this house. We're experiencing all these weird things. I told you this yesterday. You never mentioned anything. And she's completely silent on the phone. I'm like, the neighbour told us that the last tenants had a problem here too, that they experienced weird stuff. She's just dead silent, is not responding. She's not even saying, you're crazy, you're making this up. That's when I knew that what the neighbour had told us was the truth, because she was guilty. She was acting like she was guilty. And I know the murder wasn't this lady's fault. And I understand that you don't really want to be telling somebody of a place that you're wanting to rent out that, oh, there was a murder here. But I guess the fact that she had been there the day previous and I had told her all these things, she could have come clean and said, you know, there was something tragic that happened here, and maybe that has something to do with what you're experiencing, and maybe we can get a priest in or something. We pretty much decided there and then that we wanted to leave the house, because I didn't really feel safe there. You don't really want to be sharing your house with a small kid with something that feels like it's dangerous. That's what it felt like living there. We ended up telling the landlady that we were leaving. We weren't going to be staying there, and gave her very little notice, and she didn't even tell us that we needed to give longer or anything. We gave her, I think, a week's notice in the end. My sister said that we could stay at her place until we found somewhere new, and that's what we did. And we never experienced anything weird again, and haven't experienced anything in our new place either. And that house, I hate driving down that road that it's on. I'll deliberately try find a different route so I won't have to even look at it. Thank you, Aubrey, for sending in your paranormal experience. If you have your own paranormal experience that you'd like me to narrate on the show, you can send it to scaryaparanormalpodcast@gmail.com. Before we finish up this week's episode, I want to say a special hello to all our new followers. I know we got a new influx of listeners to the podcast. I am so grateful. Thank you so much for sending kind messages and reaching out. It's really, really nice to hear. The podcast is slowly approaching 200,000 downloads, which is a number that I did not think I would be reaching this soon. Thank you so much. Make sure to hit the follow or subscribe button wherever you listen to your podcast so you don't miss a future episode. And join me next time for another episode of Scary.
Hi, I'm Casey, host of the Casefile podcast. Today, I want to talk to you about Boost Mobile, offering reliable nationwide coverage backed by a 30-day money-back guarantee. Love your service or get your money back, no questions asked. With Boost Mobile, you get nationwide coverage and fast network speeds at a fraction of the price. Why pay more for the same great service? Unlimited plans start at just $25 a month, and you won't be sacrificing coverage to save. So why wait? Start saving with Boost today. The Boost Mobile network, together with their roaming partners, covers 99% of the US population. 5G speeds not available in all areas. Visit your nearest Boost Mobile store or find us online at boostmobile.com. Money back guarantee. Try Boost Mobile risk-free for 30 days. If you don't like us, you get your money back. Requires port-in and autopay. Customers who cancel within 30 days of activation will have Boost service fees refunded. Activation fees, if applicable, and phone payments will not be refunded.
Morning people wake up for peace and quiet. McDonald's breakfast people, we wake up for the sweet rush of getting that warm, delicious breakfast right before it ends.
With McValue at McDonald's, get any size pumpkin spice iced coffee for just 99 cents until 11 a.m. And try our pumpkin and cream pie. They're spiced and priced so very nice. Price and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.